Um, this is a conversation I've had a lot with a lot of different people. I have a 10-year-old. He's about to be in the fifth grade, and every single time I see something about mass shootings, it breaks my heart. Because it's sad that at the end of the day, the conversation is like, oh, what should the teachers do? What did the police do? Da, da, da. More like, do I need to buy a bulletproof vest to put into my backpack, son? Like it's sad. Or the fact that I gotta watch YouTube video tutorials to see like what caliber, how many books it takes to stop a certain caliber.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say this, man. Like I say, all of y'all make such knowledgeable points, and like I said, have different opinions, and everybody's respectful. This is what it's all about. Another topic I wanted to touch on, which we could get back to this if y'all have something to say, but how do you think we could stop these school shootings, man? Do we need to put armed guards? Do we need to arm the teachers? What is y'all's take on that? Because I know all of y'all are old enough that it affects us. Or if we don't have kids, we'll be having them shortly, probably. We'll start with Amador. I mean, what do you think is a solution that could possibly work with these public schools?
This is a conversation I've had a lot with a lot of different people. I have a 10-year-old. He's about to be in the fifth grade, and every single time I see something about mass shootings, it breaks my heart. Because it's sad that at the end of the day, the conversation is like, oh, what should the teachers do? What did the police do? Da, da, da. More like, do I need to buy a bulletproof vest to put into my backpack, son? Like it's sad. Or the fact that I gotta watch YouTube video tutorials to see like what caliber, how many books it takes to stop a certain caliber. And the kind of drills that I have to individually teach my son about, like, hey, you may have to smear blood on yourself to like pretend like your friend's blood on your face so you can pretend you're dead so that you can live to see another day. We can sit here and just be like, yeah, we need stricter gun laws. Yeah, we need this or all this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, is it really going to change anything? The question is, because I don't know. I'm not a politician. I am a gun owner. I keep my guns in a safe. I got a AR, a hunting rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun, and I keep everything behind lock and key. And I teach my son. I bought my son a BB gun so I can teach him proper gun control and gun safety before I move him up to a real caliber. But I have yet to hear anybody come up with a legitimate argument. Like, yeah, we need stricter gun laws. Okay, but what does that entail?
Right.
Not just mental health and all this stuff, because at the end of the day, if you need a gun, you're going to find a goddamn gun. You know what I mean? Like, we live in a country where, like, there's more guns than people. So, yes, fine, make it stricter and harder for them to buy guns in gun stores, but is that really going to fix it? Because felons can't get guns, but yet they have access to firearms. They find a way. So my question is like, what is a genuine, legitimate argument or like safe line or safety line to like actually make it happen? Because the Uvaldes, the police were there. They didn't do shit.
And had the equipment too. So it's not like they can get funded to have more training or more equipment. They were fully capable to get it done.
Exactly. They had them outgunned, outmanned, out equipment, out everything. And that still happened. Before, this is the first time that this has happened where like the police had a chance to actually intervene in a good amount of time, and it didn't happen. Arming the teachers, like, imagine going to work and being told you have to do something that that's not what you were there to do. You're there to teach, expand minds, raise the youth, all that stuff. Hey, take this gun. And then the counter argument to that is like, well, who's to say that his teacher won't snap and he would be the person, right? Or they would be the person that will just be like, yo, you know what, straight up, fuck them kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no
putting more fuel into the pot of S is never the answer.
Yeah. So I like I said, I have yet to hear the only valid argument that or not argument, but the only thing that I can personally do as a parent right now is just train my kid and unfortunately arm him up better, but at the same time, it's like my kid can get killed at school or we can get killed at the shopping center just because I wanted to go to Publix. Mm-hmm. Like who's really safe at this point in this country when it comes to that?
That's true. Yeah, honestly, that you're on the right track though. because good information and good knowledge will always allow somebody in a situation to avoid a situation too. So if your son knows about guns and stuff like that, and everyone does, think even and have the laws still on the books, I think that would be a way to combat it. Does it eliminate it? Probably not. I don't. They're just there's some zero issue solutions,
Right.
but if you can get more people knowledge at an early age, especially.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great enough, but I mean, these are the victims.
Right.
What's a victim to do with knowledge about how a firearm works? They're the ones getting shot at. Like, just because I know what caliber, how it works, and all that stuff is not going to stop that bullet from penetrating me.
Absolutely, you're right.
My thing is more of like, I got to keep that shit away from my kid and let him know that he can't just come home and be like, yo, check this shit out, yo, I got that Call of Duty, and my dad got that scope on it from that game. It's like, no, I don't. I want to teach him proper etiquettes about that. But at the end of the day, that doesn't save him from just some random bozo kicking down the door and just ratatata,
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and it's why it's probably going to be in the forefront for even a number of years on the national narrative now. It's a tricky thing.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's very tricky.
Because you're playing with too many precious things, and even now we have the situation where you have everything that you were thought that you were missing out, that you messed up on all the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
and now you had everything, and you still and it still didn't get taken care of.
Right. Yeah.
So it's crazy. I mean, and there's a lot of other issues that are kind of rolling into that like kind of spiral where okay, we've given money, we've given training, we've given X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Same problems come up every on 4 to 8 year cycles.
I want to touch on something real quick that I pulled up here on the computer. 1989, DeShaney versus Winnebago County. The U.S. Supreme Court has also ruled that police have no specific obligation to protect.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We learned that real quick.
Yeah. They don't have to. Another thing I was going to touch on was the Jimmy Carter comment. The similarities between Carter keep going. You can find speeches where he literally blamed the oil companies. This is the oil company's fault. They're the one engaged. I mean, it's the same all the way down. The same thing. Okay, well, we're going to relieve the gas tax. The same thing Biden's talking about doing now. That didn't work. He's doing the exact same things that Carter did. And at least people liked Carter. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was a nice guy, at least.
Yeah, but at the same time, if there was social media back then, he probably would have gotten a few comments too.
That's a good point.
On the way down, especially being from all the way down there in South Georgia. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Different time, different mindset.
Yeah. Right. Who was it? Lyndon B. Johnson said he claimed his opponent made an allegation that he did incestuous behavior with an animal just so that he could hear the guy decline it. And now just imagine if that was just on a newspaper article.
Right.
Imagine that, but it Twitter sphere at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday.
And also what Amador talked about, the way that he was raising his children around the guns. I grew up around a National Guardsman, right? He wasn't my father. He was my best friend's father, like my Ace Deuce's father, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a closet full of guns in the front room. You could see them. We'd be sitting there playing video games, and you could see them. They're right there.
Right.
And we learned how to shoot them the same way. BB guns first, 22, 410 gauge, and started going up the way, right? By the time we were like 12, we could pretty much shoot whatever we wanted to. We knew how.
Right.
And he made sure of it. And you knew that if you did anything inappropriate with them guns, it was going to be bad for everybody involved. And he was going to take them away, and we loved playing with them. Right. So we knew we were on our best behavior. So that is the way. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Do not let your kids be ignorant about guns.
No, absolutely not.
Fully versed. They should be able to field strip something by the time they're like 10.
Yeah,
that's you're doing. That is the way to do it.
Yeah. I'm guessing you never shot anything up besides just
Hell nah.
There you go. See.
Hell nah.
Right.
Hell nah. I ain't
Yeah.
no.
No, see, that's the thing.
Tremendous, man. Tremendous. Now, how much I know it like nowadays, we all are relatively young people. How much does because this mental health aspect, it's been focused a lot recently. Back in the day, did they talk about mental health a lot? I can't remember really when they would. Okay, this is kind of okay. How much do y'all think that plays a part in this, or do you think they're overblowing it and it's just bad people out here? Like,
I think that the mechanisms that we have set up in society that are set up to maximize profit have unintended consequences. And one of these seems to be the psychological derision of a certain set of the population. We know this from Jonathan Haidt's work from New York University. Dr. Jonathan Haidt really focused on young girls because all of a sudden around 2010, the amount of young women not reporting, they talk about, oh, people are just more comfortable talking about their problems. We're not talking about reports. We're talking about young women who showed up at the hospital with physical injuries they had done to themselves. Okay? It skyrockets in 2010. This is the invention of the like button. Okay? Things go downhill from there. Now we are starting to see the effects, and the weird thing is, we're actually starting to see the effects in the Black community, where they were somewhat insulated, right? Because of the segregation of the country, they were more insulated from the problems. But as Black folks get more money, as Black Americans get more money and become richer and move up into the middle class, they're absorbing the problems that were predominantly in the white population. These type of psychological problems that we're talking about, right? So they're presenting the same behavior. They're starting to cut themselves in record numbers, self-harm, suicide. It wasn't as much of a problem. Didn't used to be as much of a problem in the Black and Hispanic community. Suicide. It was like it was concentrated in the white community. That gap is starting to be bridged, right? So something that we're doing, something that this is not a problem in Afghanistan. This isn't a problem in Africa, right? Where they just got, you know what I mean? They just got a lot of these technologies. So something has happened in the Western industrialized world that is causing this. And I believe that these school shootings are an outgrowth of that. I don't know what exactly it is, but I have a feeling, and I'm a capitalist at heart, but I have a feeling it's a side effect of capitalism, some sort of side effect of the psychological atmosphere that is created for us through the screens and the world around us.
That's interesting.
Beautifully put. Yeah.
The only question is that if they're really that mentally ill to the point where they are suicidal, they would not need to go into a classroom or take people with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the interesting part, because they just like to chalk it up to mental health, or their favorite scapegoat before mental health was blaming video games. You know,
Music.
they're like, yeah, music. First it was rock and roll, then it was hip hop, then it was rap, then it was video games, and now it's like, oh, now it's a mental health thing. But it's like, okay, what mental health? Because they're not depressed. Depressed people, I've had depression. You know what I wanted to do when I had a depression bout? Lay in bed all day, covered in a blanket. I never wanted to load up my AR and walk into my local shop and be like, I am depressed, and now you're all gonna feel it.
Right.
You know, when I had my little bout, I just laid in bed and I didn't want to do a fucking thing. I just wanted to sleep for about 24 hours, and I didn't want to hear from anything or anyone. But I never wanted to like let anybody else know or feel that I was depressed. So the mental health thing, I feel, because at the end of the day, when you say mental health, it's such a vague spectrum. What are we talking about when we say mental health specifically? Like, because there's many things when it comes to mental health. They're just throwing a coin into a well, and it just sounds nice to people because they consider it new. Because like he said, now it's becoming more of a like, oh shit, mental health. But mental health has always been here. It's always been an issue. But now they're just finding a vague scapegoat without having to like pinpoint exactly what it is because they don't have an answer. But that's what I feel, at least when I hear people talking about it. Because being in the medical field, somebody says like, oh, they have mental health issue. Okay, which one? Which one are we talking about? Depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder? What are we talking about exactly? You know, there's a huge spectrum of mental disorders, but they don't say any of these things. They just like mental health, and we're all just supposed to be like, another one for mental health. God damn it! You know what I'm? That's what it feels like. They just wanna give you a generic answer so that you can just be like, son of a bitch, got us again. That's not how that works.
I wish you were wrong, bro. I wish you were. I wish you were.
You know what I mean? And that's what it's come down to. Because like we mentioned earlier, before it was what, rock and roll, hip hop, rap. They always had to find an escape and something that was, once again, very vague. Because people didn't understand it. So they're just using something that people don't truly understand to use it as a means to not have to explain what exactly we're dealing with. Because when you don't have enough information about it, you just have to be like, we're still trying to figure it out. And just use that as more of like biding your time. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a washed over term. I think it's also more behavioral. And it's because because of our age and the social media aspect of it, you're able to see more of these behaviors. And I think it's also a big part on the media, blasting the names and putting it out everywhere. As soon as it happens, it's the guy's face, wherever it, all these times as has happened, just put and blast it out you're going to find people that are going to find idolization for that person and that acts. There's good. Just in a sheer society, there's always going to be a number one, whatever it may be, that will adhere to that some way, somehow. But if you don't blast it all over the place, you can start combating it there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start whitewashing, you're not helping the problem. You're causing to it, because then people will just start categorizing everything in that manner. But everything can just get pushed to the side, and okay, well, we'll just push it. It's this term, boom. It's bringing everybody to one single point and leaving them there.
If you think about that, okay, mental illness is just a set of behaviors. It's just a manifest set of behaviors. That's all mental illness. There's no blood draw that says, oh, you're a schizophrenic. It's that you manifest 6 behaviors, all in the same areas. Behaviors, emotions, things that are jittery, You know what I mean? I don't think behaviors is the exact word, but it's just a set of things that you manifest. Okay, that puts you in this box. So by definition, whenever a mother walks into the school and starts dusting people, he's exemplifying a behavior that automatically makes him mentally ill. Mm-hmm. They've created a situation to funnel them right back into it. If you don't have depression, you exemplify a set of, you sleep too damn much, you ain't got no energy, you know what I mean? It's a set of things, right? Mm-hmm. So they've just created a situation. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, he went left. Well, clearly he was mentally ill, because nobody who wasn't mentally ill would have manifested those behaviors.
Right.
Can't argue with that.
Right. Now I will say, growing up, and I grew up in the South, so maybe it might have been a little different if y'all grew up in different areas, but when you did some crazy-ish, it was no excuse. You was getting beat by your parents. I mean, I remember guys that would be thinking that they could act crazy in school, and their parents would come to the school and whip them right in front of all of us. Do y'all believe that? Do y'all believe that the way everything's getting rolled back, should we just give parents the freedom to just handle it themselves? You know, we're giving the power back to the states. Should we just give the power back to the parents and just go whoop his ass? I don't know. Like, give me y'all's perspective.
Nah,
Because I've heard. Go ahead. I've heard parents say their hands are tied. I don't have kids, so I don't know. But is it true that parents' hands are tied and it's like it's a free for all? I mean, you tell me. Go ahead.
I'll let anybody who has a kid speak on that.
I mean, I've physically disciplined my son before, yeah. But now that he's older, it's easier to discipline him because I can just take away his shit. No YouTube, no video games, or nothing, and he's just like, "Oh no, bro." Oh no, bro. It's like, hey, I want to go outside and play with my friends. Did you do your homework? Oh shit, yeah, that's right. But I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because like some people are like they don't want to see it. Growing up in Cuba, the teacher can discipline you, and like the teacher can spank you. And guess what? And then when your mom showed up or your dad showed up and they found out that you were spanked and you got in trouble, then you got a second ass whooping.
Woo!
Yeah. So you get disciplined by the teacher in front of your classmates, and then you get your ass beat as everybody is walking out. And then guess what? All the parents are looking at that parent like, that's right. And then they will look at their kids like,
You see?
that's gonna be you. You better behave. So that's the thing about that. But I've heard a lot of arguments from different parents and teachers from different areas. Not someone that I've talked to specifically because I don't know that many teachers. But you know, like sometimes parents don't want teachers to do certain things in classrooms, and then sometimes parents expect teachers to do certain things in classroom. So it's like we gotta come to a solid understanding so we kind of have an idea. Because like some parents will lose their fucking minds if teachers discipline the kids. And then they'll demand that this teacher be removed or they be reprimanded. And then their kid behaves like shit and they're like, well, you're the teacher, why don't you handle it? Like they want a hands-off approach. They don't want to do anything. So it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to discuss and like pinpoint because everybody's different. Like me personally, I don't mind if the teacher calls me and lets me know. Because like shit's very modernized now. Like I have an app on my phone that the teacher has with all the parents. And they let us know, like, hey, this is the report. That we get report cards via email. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no hiding that shit anymore. So there's no hiding that shit. I'm dead ass. You ain't hiding that shit no more. Like, but at the same time, like if something happened, like the teacher will text us, and both my wife and I, and she'll be like, listen, he's behaving like this, and I'm gonna give him the chance to explain himself. And if he acts like nothing happened, then we're gonna bring it up.
Right. Give me just a second, Amador. We got Keith Force in here. He said, but it all depends. Some people's mental health is in a more severe state than a regular, just depressed person, and everybody does not handle being depressed the same. He says, and I think there needs to be a more open conversation about mental health when you're schizophrenic, when you have paranoia, when you have social anxiety. It's complex. He says someone can literally be mentally unstable and kill you and not even mean to kill you, but have voices in their head telling them to murder you. More resources need to be available.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. But that's somebody who knows what their diagnosis is, and they may have missed their medication, or they ran out of medication, or they missed. It's crazy how medication works in regards to these kind of things, because if they just so much as miss the medication by a couple of hours or something like that, that little voice in the back of their head just creeps up enough to be like, you don't need that shit, or you already took it, you're good. And these are things that are very real. He is absolutely correct. But do you know how hard it is to sit down and successfully diagnose and test every single individual? That takes time, a lot of time and a lot of money. And I agree with him. Yeah, it needs to be a very serious, open conversation, because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how much are we willing to fund this and how much are we willing to participate. It's not just about funding, it's about participation, because you got to get your business out there. You know, not a lot of people are willing to just be like, oh yeah, I have these thoughts, or yeah, I behave like this, because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be looked differently or treated differently. But he makes a very valid point. He's 100% correct.
Any of y'all have any? See, me from like the country, I feel like we never had any of these cases. It was like everybody was kind of like grabbing sticks and chopping wood. It's like, do y'all think that, like Gangish talked about, the more urban the area and the more technology you have, does it corrupt the mind to where maybe you fall ill to these anxiety issues and stuff? Because country people, we really I saw some people go through depression. That's one I saw a lot of. But the voices in your head, if they didn't tell us they had voices, if they did, are those real things that people are going through that we just don't talk about much?
I don't know if it corrupts your mind. It may reform it in a way, because you're now the reality is I'm speaking to you guys where you guys are sitting and having the same exact conversation as if we were all sitting in the same room together. So it changes the reality. So it's forming it in a different. Does it corrupt it? I think you probably need a little bit more external stimuli or whatever to start that corruption process, because it's just a change, because we're in different rooms and maybe have different views. We're not at each other's throats, right? But we don't use this buffer as it's not, the process is still not corrupted. It's just changed. So if you focus on just the change and the benefits of new technology, but if you allow it to just go gung ho for profits, like Genghis was saying earlier, that you needed something else to be introduced to start corrupting a process. The process itself just can't just start being corrupted yet.
Wow.
That's kind of like a fickle thing, because that's no different than telling, when do we determine that your imaginary friend is no longer imaginary?
Whenever you say it's not.
But what if they never leave, and one of the things about psychological effects is that this thing is convincing you that it is you.
Right. And I think that's mental health is, not to go backwards, but mental is more or less probably something neurological, like a misfire of some sort that is not registering, so that the behaviors can't manifest where, I guess, society would ideologically want it to be.
Yeah.
It's not, and the mental health, to whitewash it, you think it's that person telling themselves it's the voice. But like what you're saying is, it's there. It's just there for that person. So it's in order, if you just treat the symptom, you're never going to solve the problem.
Right. But like I said before, it comes down to a point where like that person has to admit that they have a problem. And that's where it gets tricky, because that voice is potentially convincing that person that this is no different than your consciousness speaking to you and just helping you, guide you on decisions that you need to make.
Right.
It's a very fickle thing, but it comes down to like people coming forward and being like, I don't think this is right.
Mm-hmm.
Can I talk to somebody about this? And and at the end of the day, like, there's parts of the mind that we still don't know how they function.
And that we don't even probably use.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that still need to be done more research on, but you need willing participants to conduct these researches.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Want to weigh in real quick. So historically, these people had a place in society. They were called the mad. I mean, in England and Europe, they were just the mad, and they had a purpose, and the society took care of them. They were just taken care of. Now we went a little worse with this, and I actually have a personal experience. I was in a prison called Buena Vista, Colorado, that was built in 1865, and it was built as a child's reformatory. It was for children. It's in Buena Vista, Colorado. It's like 9,000 feet in the air. It's in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, and it was built for children that were extremely violent and were incorrigible, or ones who had Down syndrome, ones who had mental illness and could not be taken care of. And so they would take them and put them in the cells in this dungeon in the middle of the mountains, right? Now, eventually it became too much. Too many bad things happened out there, and they shut it down. And then eventually they opened it back up as a prison, because it's a really good prison and it's isolated from everything and it's really hard to escape from. But in America, up until, not too long ago, we really took crazy violent people and just locked them away. So that's why this wasn't going on before. If you couldn't be taken care of by your parents, if you were really that wild, because think about it, 100 years ago, it wasn't like now where F you, bitch, in the Walmart and all that, talking to his mom. There wasn't none of that. You do that one time, you're gone. Like 100 years ago, you're going to get the crap kicked out of you by your parents. And if you do it again, you might be out the house. And they would. They would send you to get him out of here. They'd call the state, get him out of here. I can't take care of him. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I wanted to touch on a couple things. We talked about disciplining children just from a scientific fact. Not a scientific fact. That's a psychological perspective. Anytime you put your hands on your children, you're failing to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And you're resorting to violence.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna hinder your child's IQ. This is one of the only ways we know to bring a child's IQ lower is to hit them or starve them. Starve them of either food or starve them of stimulation. You know what I mean? Keeping them in a closet, things like this. These are the only things you can do to bring a child's lower. Now, there is also a distinction between disciplining your child and beating someone that is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Being brutal towards somebody who cannot defend themselves.
I agree.
You know what? There's a whooping, you know what I mean, on the backside, and then there's taking advantage of a power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To gratify whatever messed
Absolutely.
up you have in your head. And the child will know the distinction. And I know this because that man who was in the National Guard with them guns, he whooped me. He wasn't related to me at all. He whooped me. And I had it coming, and I love that man. To this day, I love that man. I went and saw him a couple years back in California. He still lives in the California hills. Awesome dude.
Mm-hmm.
He sells jelly on the side of the road in Mendocino County in front of his house. He got the plot of land, goes out to the front, and a huge white beard sits on the corner and sells jelly, makes a living. I swear to God, he's cool as shit, man. He's cool. He used to build us huge forts. He would build us like trench works and forts out of pallets, dog. Build huge forts out of pallets. We'd have 2- and 3-story forts, and he'd take them down like twice a year, and then build them into a new shape.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was dope.
Yeah.
So there's a distinction there.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing. This just seems to be mental health seems to be a luxury that comes along with wealth. Because you will still see extreme mental health problems, say in Africa, but the vast majority of Africa needs to work, like Coach Tony was talking about. They don't have time for that. So little psychological problems get squashed, or they find a way to manifest in unharmful ways. You know what I mean? Maybe you do something weird, but you've got to work all day. You've got to worry about surviving and taking care of your kids, right? So the little problems tend to get suppressed and pushed out and just worked into the ground. And then the big problems, obviously, there is still mass shootings in Africa. There's, crazy things still happen in Africa. These problems still happen in Africa too. But affluence really seems to exacerbate mental health for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it has something to do with work.
Let me ask you this. Since you said that mental health is a luxury, do you think it's because the modern day American has too much free time on their hands or too much distractions?
I would say both, a combination. If you have time and then you use that in a distraction manner. Because we definitely have a plethora of both.
Right. Now, I'm gonna touch on something for y'all. Staying on this topic, Kelly. Like I said, me and Kelly played college football together. It could be the physical aspect as well, because Kelly, during college football season, we didn't ever see it much mental health issues. We were just worried about 2 days, the heat, practice. Our schedule was like that.
Right.
And as soon as the off season hit, we got to do.
Not a problem.
Explain that, Kelly. As y'all don't know Kelly, he's a college football star, QB man. Explain what that is about. Go ahead.
I don't know, man, because it's crazy. You're right. You go from it's a locker room, and then in spring ball comes around, and there's a damn psychiatric clinic.
Yeah.
God, I think Genghis is right on the ball, though.
Yeah, Genghis.
We as humans, we have the innate desire to survive and work towards surviving. When you get into an affluent state and you're not focusing on those issues either as hard or as frequently, you're going to think about other stuff. You may sit back and chill. But when distractions start being entered and then become normalized and then become hypersensitized, that's when you start seeing the disconnect of, okay, my body's telling me I need to be doing something right now, but I don't know what to do, and I'm just on, the phone, or I'm just watching, the streaming or whatever. It's definitely it's a 1-2 punch. It's a good combo. I think both of them could do enough damage by themselves. You just have too much time. You get lazy as hell. You don't do anything, and your health goes bad. Your physical health goes bad, probably more than your mental. But if you're still doing stuff, but it's off any sort of what you're tangibly needing innately, that disconnect is going to start throwing everything off whack. You're going to be like, well, start jittering around and stuff.
Right. And Amador, same with you. The same as Kelly. We was in the Navy together.
Yeah.
Man, you take some crazy motherfuckers and put them in boot camp and give them physical activity and give them a purpose. These guys end up some of the best guys we've ever met. I mean, Amador, if you would have met me before boot camp, I'm a total different guy than when I felt, okay, I'm making money, I feel good about myself, I'm exercising every day. Physical exercise could play a part in all this as well. Like I was saying with Kelly, it's no different than the military and sports. I play both sides. Every day in the military, we running in the morning. Every day in sports, we running in the morning. You got a group of fellas, we in the locker room, we all stink. We all talking about women and drinking and party. It's like we all got that one-track mind. And when you isolate people and they're not working out and they're watching crazy philosophies online, that's when you get the people that are out of their mind, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Albert? You being a military person in your own, do you feel like people just need to find something to occupy their time with this rise of quote unquote crazy people, or do you think it's people are born crazy? So basically, can you create crazy, or do people born crazy? Can people be born as a school shooter? What is your thoughts on that? Like, is it destiny for some of these guys? Like, that's what I mean.
I don't doubt that you can be born with mental issues. There are things that are hereditary, and then there are things that happen throughout your life that can lead you down a certain path. We've all had trauma. We've all handled trauma differently. That's just the nature of the beast. Growing up, you weren't allowed to express emotions. You weren't allowed to feel sad. You weren't allowed to be like, fuck. You weren't allowed to because at the end of the day, the conversation would be like, yo, listen, your cousins in Cuba, your family in Cuba, they're starving, they're going hungry. You have nothing to complain about. You have every opportunity in the world. So it's one of those like, I guess so, but you never really talk or handle the issue. You're just kind of like, I guess things could be worse. But at one point, do you let that tumor grow to a point where it just kills you? Does that make sense? Right. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, being physically active is great, but at the end of the day, depression, like I said earlier, like it physically drains you just as much as it running 3 miles drains you. You don't want to do shit. You don't want to be active. You don't want to socialize. You shut down mentally. And when you shut down mentally, the body goes with it. Does that make sense? Because like you said, like we would wake up at what, 4 a.m, muster, standing
Yeah.
formation, and that hot ass, and that
We
hot
all
ass
got a
minute,
bad attitude.
we all mad as fuck because we know we got a long ass day ahead of us, and then we got to sit in the classroom and get PowerPoint to death. It like you said, it breeds a different kind of beast. Some people thrive in that chaos, and some people don't. We saw how many people did we know that didn't make it past the first P days of boot camp?
That's fact.
How
Unheard.
many people went to sleep the first night crying? Because I heard them.
Yeah.
I was in my rack and I just hear sobbing, and I'm like, yo, I'm trying to go to bed, bro. I haven't slept in like 72 hours. Like, shut the fuck up. You
Same
know?
thing as Kelly. 2 a days. How many people left 2 a days?
Yeah.
I was just about to ask, do you have the midnight train in boot camp? Is that something that crosses over when it goes in the military? Because in our quote unquote boot camp, that midnight train was running out every single night.
Explain the midnight train to people that don't know.
Midnight train is you go to dinner, right? You go to your final meeting, and you see everybody, and check-in's like what, 11 o'clock, lights out.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
We had that too. Yeah. Lights out.
and then 6 a.m. whenever you go to breakfast, you like, yo, where's so and so? Took the midnight train.
They cracked out.
Got up out of it one day, one practice. Done.
Same thing at boot camp.
Yeah. Boot camp and A school, like some people couldn't cut it. Like they were just like, yo, this isn't for me. Like, I don't even know why I'm here. And it's like, yo, you kind of survived the worst part of it. Like, you have a little bit more freedom now.
Brought up a good thing where, some people thrive in it, some people don't. That sink or swim deal. Mm-hmm. Before I went to play with Eric, I was at big school. I wasn't playing ball, and I was not thriving whatsoever. But having that structure of the foundation of having to play football and go to school and still maintain and be up on all my shit to make sure that I'm not falling behind, that it made me thrive. I've seen other guys that came in the same situation, didn't play, came in, and they were like, I'm going back to the beach. It's just pick your poison sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll let Gangers talk. Gangers, with your time that you spent incarcerated, did guys that had a routine and guys that had a workout routine, did that help them mentally, or did you have a workout routine yourself that maybe helped you cope mentally?
I was a gym rat, the pretty much the whole time, but it had a lot to do with politics. It had to do a lot to do with politics in that prison that I got to, Buny. Some of these people were like, okay, I didn't realize they weren't hostile at the time, but you'd see black dudes that were bench pressing 500 pounds, and there'd be a whole clique of them, like 4 of them working out together. They look like professional football players, mean-looking motherfuckers, right? I just got to prison. They see me, I'm a young white boy, they ain't got nothing to say. You know what I mean? I mean, we share the weight room or whatever, not going to work out together, but I mean, it's cordial. But that's about it. Now, I know now, after doing all my time, I could have talked to them dudes and we could have chopped it up, but I didn't know how to approach the situation. And I was intimidated. They were huge. These dudes were huge. It was literally, I was 18 years old. And these dudes looked like professional athletes, And that shocked me. And I was like, nah, we're not going to do this. I'm going to compete. Because I like to compete. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see what I can do. You know what I mean? So I start lifting. I jump in the car with some of the homies and start lifting and doing my thing. But everybody has a routine in prison. Now, what their routine is, what their trip is, you never know. I got a homeboy who quilts blankets. He sells blankets for like $300 a pop. Takes him 2-3 weeks to make one. Sits in his room and quilts blankets and drinks Diet Coke all day. That's all he does. His hands split open. Hands split open until he bleeds because he refused to drink water. And in there knitting all day, drinking Diet Coke. You know what I mean? So some people are perverts. And their whole, is just to cruise around and try to find where the women are. The female guards are. And then make inappropriate comments. And they'll end up in the hole. And then they'll do it again. You know what I mean? They'll do it again. Some people, their whole trip is whenever a female guard gets on and there's count time and there's a female guard counting, they'll get butt naked. There's people who just do that randomly, and they'll go to the hole and get out, and they'll be cool for a couple months, and then they'll start jiving again with population. You know what I mean? They'll get their little job, and you see them on the poker table. Maybe they're doing this, and then they did it again. He pulled out his dick in front of the guard again.
Oh, hey.
You know what I mean? I'm serious. There's a whole bunch of people who work out all the time. So everybody finds something. Everybody finds something to do. You're gonna find your niche, and you know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's interesting. Oh, guys, y'all all got free time? Y'all anybody burn out? Let me know. We've been on here about 2 hours.
About 2 hours. Yeah, I gotta get signed off.
All right.
Yeah, but I
gotta walk my dog.
Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to come on. It was great talking with you guys, fellas, meeting you.
Hold on. Somebody say, hold on, before you go, who is Tweezy? You out of here. Tweezy said, not comeback Kelly. Not 4th and 10 Kelly. Tweezy, I don't know who you are. I know you was on our team probably. Oh, boy. Tweezy out of here. I'm not sure who that is, but they just commented. But, yeah, guys, we'll wrap it up. I'm not going to do you like that, guys. You've been doing it for 2 hours. This is my first live stream, really. I had a tremendous time hearing all these different perspectives. And like we say, I pointed out each one of y'all individually because even though y'all might lean a certain way, all of y'all are very level-headed, and I knew we could have a logical Antoine Harper. That's who gets here.
Oh,
Big John.
Hey, you're talking about bodybuilding. I see what Twan's been doing lately. He's even bigger than playing days.
Big Twan.
Big swole.
But yeah, hey, I handpicked each one of y'all. I'm sure I'll be able to bring some more people like Big Twan on. He's level-headed as well. But I knew we could have an honest dialogue, and we did. I knew we could be respectful, and we did that as well. And I knew we could find a few solutions. And that's what I like is each one of you are solution-oriented. Y'all don't just state the problem. Y'all say how I would fix it if I was in power. So I 100% appreciate y'all coming on, man. We'll do it again. Signing off, Kelly, can you say one more thing to the young guys watching? And I'll go down the list of each one of y'all. Maybe y'all could give some closing words.
I just want to say, right now it's a crazy, each day it kind of seems crazier and crazier, but the way to change, and it's gonna fall on the men of the next generation. It really is, and it's gonna get to a point where I believe the good men, the great leaders, are gonna end up having to be forced into situations to lead. It's not gonna be this person was elected to lead, or this person became the CEO to lead. It's really gonna be a change. So anybody listening that is a little bit younger or is definitely in the mind frame of where do we go from here, and just find your principles, lean on those principles, and then surround yourself with people who have those same principles. And right there, you're gonna have a great head start, at least, to combat anything that can come at you. So appreciate you having me on. You fellas, great to talk with you. Great to meet with you. Hope we can do it again soon. You let me know, and I'll be talking to you guys soon.
Definitely will, Kelly. I'll holler at you, man.
All right.
Adalberto, veteran, friend, family member of mine. Man, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
You tell the young guys something. You got a little fan base too, man. People ask about you all the time. They love how you speak. So go ahead and tell the people something you can give them, the young guys coming up on just how you anything you could tell yourself at 20.
Just because you have a role model in your life doesn't mean they're gonna understand your point of view. I harp on mental health because growing up, I didn't have a crutch for mental health. It was frowned upon to feel that kind of way. Seek help, man. You ain't no less of a man because you asking for help. You ain't no less of a man because you want to be better or you want to do better. Do it for yourself so you can do it for others. That's all I gotta say. Regardless of how old you are, even if you're old head, it's never too late. Go get you some help. Go talk to someone. Feel good. Feel good about yourself. That way you can have a positive influence and a positive outlook with the people around you.
Right. Amazing, man. Signing off. Gangish, like I say, man, you've been through it all. You said 20, was it 15 years, 20 years you spent?
I did about 14 with juvenile. That's juvenile though.
Okay. Anything you could tell people, like if you was telling your 20-year-old self something, maybe you could leave off with a message that might change somebody's life? Go ahead if you can.
When Joe Rogan, a bunch of Joe Rogan's episodes got taken off the air whenever he switched over to Spotify, and he had these episodes with a comedian named Joey Diaz, and Joey Diaz used to talk about something that his father would tell him, and it stuck with me for years. I haven't heard it for years because you haven't had access to the videos for years. Dad would tell him, justify your existence. So I think that there's probably something to that because I can remember the statement vividly from like 7 years ago. Justify your existence. That's it.
Right. Very simple.
I got episode 2 coming out today. Episode 2, every soul shall taste death. It's about, I promise it's worth it. It's about to crack.
Gangish. I'm about to check that out myself. I got to go in there. His YouTube channel is Gangish. Like
Gangish,
I said,
yeah, Gangish oyster sauce in parentheses oyster sauce, and the video premieres at 1 p.m. today.
There you go, guys. He's always in the comments. So if you look under my videos in the comment section, you can click his link down there too. Like I say, Gangish. He has another one, Rocky Mount. Do you still post on Rocky Mount as well?
Not really. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. Like I said, I ruined it and attracted a bunch of military personnel. And so like my whole audience is just military personnel that is, I'm pretty sure, just spying on me, thinking if I'm talking about Gonzalo Lira again.
Okay, no problem. All right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you, Gangish. And like I said, I appreciate everybody else coming on. We're going to try to do these at least once a week. I'm new to the StreamYard life, but I do enjoy it. And I'm sure Gangish enjoys it too. This is amazing, just to be able to have a platform like this where, level-headed people can speak. So anyway, we're going to get up out of here, y'all. This is the Coach Perney Podcast, and we out. Peace.